From Studio 1A in Tampa, Florida, comes a talk show that really feels your pain and tells you like it is. We love America and all that freedom-loving Americans want to protect. Live from coast to coast and on your radio, it's For the People with Keith Allen.
We'll help you survive this thing called life. We're for the people. Whatever your source of stress or strife, for the people is there.
Well, hello, Mr. and Mrs. America. I am Keith Allen, and proudly welcoming you into this weekend's edition of For the People. The weekend edition is put out on Friday live at forthepeopleshow.com, first and foremost at 11 Eastern. So if you ever want to pick up the broadcast live, you can do that Fridays at 11 Eastern at forthepeopleshow.com. We're heard on radio stations all across the country, and we're growing. We really appreciate that. For some of you, remember we did a weekday show, and Chuck Harder, the founder of the broadcast, did a program for years that was a 3-hour daily show, second only to Rush Limbaugh, which was apparently it was pretty impressive. And I stepped off the weekday circuit doing a daily show, and I kind of miss it, to be quite honest with you, but I wanted to see if I could pursue some other outlets that were nearby. A lot of people said, you know, you're good. And it wasn't just people that listened to the radio, but people into the industry. And so I thought to myself, maybe I should seek out some networks and some bigger companies to see if we could do something with that, where I could actually get paid for it instead of, you know, asking for donations, etc. Because, you know, let's face it, alternative broadcast, unless you have a stick, so to speak, and somebody's writing a check, it's not the easiest thing in the world, especially when you're trying to, raise kids, put a roof over the house, which, you guys know what that means. So I was trying to be smart about the whole thing, and so I did take some time to visit some of these bigger groups. And to be honest with you, a lot of these media companies are thinking that they can reinvent the wheel. They're trying to do something completely different because they feel like radio's dying. A little message here. Radio is dying. A lot of radio stations are smart, and they have done a great job on putting an interesting format together and working very hard to keep your listenership, and they should be commended. But some of these bigger media conglomerates are losing money. One's bankrupt that I just got done talking to, and, you get these young program directors that have no experience in, say, talk radio, which, I wasn't going after music radio, but talk radio. And they think they can put together a morning zoo show on an AM frequency. And that's the one that I was looking at. I'm not going to give any call letters. I'm not going to shout at anybody. But, these folks have bosses that are above them, and they expect to have results. But, it sounds like you got Grandpa, which did terrific for years, along with another older gentleman in the Tampa Bay market. Some of you know who I'm talking about. But now they got these young ones that are totally out of touch, really, with talk radio as it needs to be. And they say it's not your dad's Bonneville, but it's been Groundhog Day for 40, 50 years, and you're trying to reinvent something that people have been paying the bills are older. And they want to hear somebody that's a little bit more seasoned and somebody that actually can get behind a microphone and actually keep your attention. It doesn't take 6 people, does it, to replace one guy? I mean, that must bring a lot of gratification to this other guy that actually had to step off the air because of health issues. But it amazes me. I mean, here it is. You have true talent that actually knocks on the door and doesn't even recognize it or even listen to it. I'm a one-man band. I produce my own show. I distribute the broadcast. I do my own marketing, own website, plan the broadcast out. and yet it has a professional result and keeps people's attention. And that's why I've been able to be successful. But, success, and I understand this from a gentleman who runs a network in Salt Lake City. It's been very kind, still runs For the People Weekend on his network, but he was a little sad to see me go, giving up the weekly 2-hour broadcast that I was doing for 3 years after Chuck's health started going south. And it was a great opportunity, but it should not always be about the money. And that was never my drive, never my heart. I wanted to make a difference. Wanted to do a show that was real for the common folk. Whether you have a PhD or a GED, you could still get what was going on because a lot of you are running at the speed of now and don't have time to sit there and devour the nation's newspapers or watch all these news shows and put together a broadcast that's meaningful. There's just a lot of garbage, as my dad would say, on the radio today. Just a lot of junk. And guys who used to be really good are not so good anymore. Just doing the same dance and not reinventing themselves in a good way, but trying old tricks, and it's just not working. It's not. There's magic or there's not. I started in New York City back in the 80s, and I'll tell you, that was radio. That's where I learned good talk radio. Bets like, let's see, Barry Farber, Barry Gray, even, Larry King. These people could make you want to listen, and you didn't even realize you were listening for as long as you did, 3, 4, 5 hour shots. And you'd listen to the commercials and all because you just wanted to know what they were going to say next. It was just good radio. And the truth of the matter is, they didn't even have to be talking about anything all that, earth-shaking, earth-changing. It's just that you had this relationship, and you never even met the person formally. But the magic of radio, where you could just turn on that channel and feel that connection. And I tell you, I think it's so needed in this digital age that we live in, that I talk about periodically, is that human connection. If you lose yourself in cyberspace, so to speak, on the internet, and texting and Facebook and Google and Snapchat and all these places, you're really not getting the human experience. And I think talk radio, seriously, has those values. And it's needed more than ever. And talk radio, when people they're meant to do it, should be doing it. But unfortunately, this one gentleman that makes the decisions in the local Tampa Bay market for a big group that, and I haven't exhausted all of them, but one that I wanted to really, and I haven't given up completely. It's a season and it has to play its course. And I'm not mad. It's just not the right timing right now. And some key people that I sought out in New York, and in Florida, in Los Angeles, sometimes you can spin your wheels and, you got to get professional advice, no matter what trade you're in. But for broadcasting specifically for me, I had to shop this around, this broadcast, this concept, this personality, this voice to other folks that are much bigger than I, make decisions, and probably, just to be frank with you, a whole lot smarter than me. But told me that you really have something, kid. And you should definitely be being paid a very good salary to do this type of broadcast. So I'm going to continue on doing this little show that has been growing across the country just on this weekend edition that runs Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Some stations play it all 3 times because you get different people listening at different times. And I am so grateful to my relationship with Sam Bushman and Liberty Network. There's a network that you could support. They're patriotic. They love God and country. They put family first, your values, first, and these people dedicate their lives to informing you with great information that certainly can cultivate a more meaningful, productive society. But you if you lose those particulars that I just mentioned, then you're losing the whole thing. You're losing the whole picture. Not a surprise. CNN has been monopolizing airports for years. But this was before. This was before CNN took that hard left turn. There was a time when CNN actually reported the news. Who, what, why, where, and when. When Turner, the Ginsu knives, you remember that? When there was that CATV, when cable TV came out, and a lot of things changed. But CNN was in every airport, and still is in every airport across this country of ours. And I was reading an article about how people are not very happy with this. But CNN has been grandfathered into these airports because they pay to have their screens, their cable. And the reason they're able to do this is because they offer them 3 minutes or so of local commercial time where they can plug the airport, restaurants, local attractions, etc. It was a brilliant idea, a great marketing idea. But if you think about it, how many tens of millions or hundreds of millions of people travel the nation's airports every year? I mean, they're a fixture in airports. And even before competitors like MSNBC, Fox News existed. But now, folks, critics asking if busy travelers should be subjected to CNN's increasingly ideological programming at gates, bars, food courts, and baggage claims, which can include on-screen subtitles that gleefully mock President Trump. Many travelers have even taken to Twitter and started online petitions to urge airports to change the channel. Now, who's talking about this? Media Research Center Vice President Dan Garner told Fox News that CNN has become more partisan than MSNBC since Trump moved into the White House. I'm not surprised, are you? And that travelers should have the option of not watching the network. Now, how are airports justifying the idea of bombarding captive viewers with content many of them oppose? Sadly, almost any outlet is fairer now than CNN, according to Garner, which is so true. It is just a cesspool of animosity against Donald Trump in the White House. And to be honest with you, it's sad because this propaganda, it's like North Korean propaganda. Folks, there are, and I hate to say this because it pains me to say it, but there is a large chunk of our society that doesn't have more than a room temperature IQ. For some odd reason, they're able to pull it together and and go to work, but they're just not very bright. And I don't claim to be the brightest. But those of you that listen to this broadcast, you are a thinker. You're a thinker. You think for yourself. You ask questions. You're wanting to learn. You don't just take everything you hear. But the room temperature IQ that I'm talking about, they believe everything that CNN tells them. Everything. There's a movie that I like. It's almost got a cult following to it. It's the famous Ron Burgundy in The Anchorman. And where this anchorman would read anything that was put on the teleprompter. Well, at sign-off, when